Hi,
Hi.
everybody. Welcome to Facebook Live, another exciting edition of Living at Your Highest Quality of Life with the doctors that inspire wellness. I'm Dr. Dan.
I'm Jessica Hutchins, and today we're coming to you from our full spectrum infrared sauna. So, we wanted to do a little Facebook Live on the benefits of infrared sauna. So, we wanted to show people what it looked like. We have a nice, roomy two-person one here with a green light on top that we'll tell you about in just a minute. But I don't know if anybody's heard of infrared saunas as opposed to the traditional steam saunas, wet saunas in the gym. But the infrared sauna is definitely the way to go. So,
Well,
why do we even care?
well, we do care. And the other thing I was going to say that I really like about this sauna, it has that built-in Bluetooth. So when you're in here for, let's say, 30 to 60 minutes, you can rock out to your favorite music, listen to a webinar, whatever it is you want to do. You can still make that a functional hour for you or just make it relaxing and entertaining. So definitely something that we need to be focusing on the sauna as it relates to the importance of detoxification, right? So
Right.
we want to highlight detoxification at this Facebook Live. We've talked in the past about the importance of recognizing inflammation, deficiencies in vitamins and minerals, as well as the challenges in detoxification that drives most, if not all, chronic disease. So, again, today we're going to be highlighting detoxification. And this is so critically important. If people are truly going to move the needle on reversing their disease, or again, if they're already on a wellness path and they want to stay well, we have to focus every single day on some form of detoxification. And so, of course, the sauna is one of those mechanisms, and we'll talk about others. But again, why is detoxification in 2018 a buzzword, and why is that so important? The reason that it's so important is that we are asking our bodies to try and detoxify out thousands upon thousands of chemicals and organisms and metals and
And drugs.
drugs. And when we have these things within our body, they act as disruptors. So in doing a little bit of research for this presentation, I came across some really interesting information about how many chemicals have been introduced to us as human beings, but even more specifically, like how many of those are actually part of our food supply. So since 1965, there have been over 4 million chemicals that have been identified and reported in the literature. Now, that doesn't mean that we're necessarily exposed to all of those. But what I found to be interesting was that since 1981, so we're looking at about, 37 years, 70,000 chemicals are currently used in the production and manufacturing of goods that either we purchase or that we consume. And so when you drill down even further, of those 70,000, there are 3,000 people, 3,000 chemicals that are used within food production today. And I don't think you should be that surprised, because if you look at the food label of anything, any processed food, and if it has more than 5 or 6 ingredients, good luck pronouncing those words. So as those words get longer and longer, it seems to be that it becomes more and more inflammatory.
And there should be zero chemicals in food. When
Right.
we're talking about food, we're not talking about chemicals you clean your car with or your house with, although those are important too, but just in your food.
This is in the food supply, 3,000. And then within water, they've identified 700 different chemicals that if we're not filtering our water out, we're then putting some of those, not necessarily all of them all the time, but some of those into the body. And again, toxins act as disruptors, and it prevents the body, which is this incredible symphony, from literally being orchestrated in a most beautiful way. And that's exactly what we're trying to get people to do, is to walk that wellness path so that their body is literally firing on all cylinders. We don't have to do anything to try to manage it on a day-to-day basis. We just really need to be mindful of how we're treating it. But I also, I want to remind us that it's not just the chemicals that are in production. There's petrochemicals that we're exposed to, industrial waste. You mentioned medication, so drugs, herbicides and pesticides. We will never give up the concept of reminding you how toxic Roundup is, the active ingredient being glyphosate. It is so toxic to not only how the body functions, but it is a killer to your microbiome, the good bacteria that enhances the functionality of your immune system. So one of the reasons that this is so critically important is many of the chemicals that we're exposed to have very long half-lives. So that's the time that it takes to be broken down and then eliminated. And some of them can be up to 50 years it can stay in the body. So really important stuff. I'll stop talking and let you go. Sorry.
And even lead, there's not a whole lot of houses anymore with old lead-based paint. There's not a whole lot of leaded gasoline going around, at least on the road. I don't know about in the air. But it's still in the environment. It doesn't go away. So everybody needs to actively detox every day in order to be healthy. There's just no way around it. And it doesn't have to be hard. It can be enjoyable, like the sauna. And that's why we're trying to introduce this to you today. So the big difference between the infrared sauna and a regular sauna, a steam sauna, is infrared sauna heats your body from the inside out. The rays penetrate into the body. And so you don't feel that terrible heat on the skin. You don't breathe that heat in. A lot of people have difficulty breathing, shortness of breath. They just can't tolerate the heat of the steam saunas, and this is much, much, much more tolerable. It still gets hot, but it's even the people who can't tolerate a steam sauna can seem to tolerate this for at least a half an hour. So, and there's different wavelengths that the infrared spectrum in the sauna particularly goes to. There's near, mid, and far, and the kind we got has all of them in it, and because all of them have different benefits. So why not try to get them all? So the near is more of 0 to 3 centimeters. Then the far is more of a 3 to 8 centimeters. So you can imagine the near gives you benefits like it stimulates collagen production in your skin. It helps wrinkles, fine lines, age spots, cellulite, all that stuff that's probably really important to a lot of women out there.
What about like people at eczema or psoriasis? Would that help?
Oh, right. Yeah, for sure. It'll help to detox with the far infrared rays, but yeah, the near infrared rays will help soothe the skin a lot too. So the far infrared rays actually penetrate and really do the job of detoxifying.
So it gets into the organs.
So, yeah, it does.
Tissue.
I mean, 8 centimeters is pretty far in. So yeah, for sure. Plus it's relaxing, but there's a lot of ways to relax. So you can have relaxation, decrease anxiety, and detox all at the same time. And it's an anti-aging and weight loss too. I mean, you sweat like crazy in here if you give yourself an opportunity to. So
it's a win all the way around.
Right.
So what other benefits do you see, and what types of patients do you recommend a sauna?
So certainly anybody with an acute infection, for sure. The heat heats up the body, and the infectious organisms do not like that at all. People with arthritis who can tolerate heat, for sure, tends to get in the joints and really help decrease the inflammation. It helps bring circulation to areas, so healing. You have a wound that's healing, or something like that. But really, again, for anybody who wants to incorporate detox into their lives just to stay healthy.
Great. And you mentioned anxiety, mood disorders. You recommend it? Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you come in here and you sit and you not only detox all the bad stuff out, which a lot of the anxiety and depression is from toxic chemicals, especially anxiety and heavy metals. I see that a lot. And there's study after study that documents all the heavy metals that are excreted in the sweat. So it definitely works to do that. And heavy metals are a hard one. You can try to detox them a lot of ways with chelation, etc., which we do use some of. But with chelation, you have to make sure your body's optimally detoxifying. So you can pull the heavy metals out from where they're stored, but unless you can get rid of them, they're going to just redistribute and cause more problems. So this way, it actively gets rid of them.
Got it. And the other one thing I did want to mention is, infrared light. There are other sources where we get infrared rays from, and I think the one that we think of the most would be the sun. So the sun actually provides us with visible light. So think about the colors of the rainbow, but it also provides us with invisible sources of light or wavelengths. So that would be ultraviolet and infrared. So we are getting infrared exposure from the sun. The problem is that prolonged exposure to the sun can have damaging effects because of the ultraviolet light.
Right.
Did I have that right?
Right. And I just thought of another patient population that really seems to benefit from this too, is people who don't sweat that much. People with significant adrenal dysfunction, thyroid dysfunction. There's lots of reasons people don't sweat, but sweating is key. You have to sweat. So this way, if you get into the sauna slowly, maybe not the very first time, but if you go a few times, you'll notice that you start sweating sooner and sooner after you get in the sauna, it used to, when I first started, I think it took me about 20 minutes to start sweating. And now I sweat, I think probably within about 3 minutes of when I start.
Nice.
So even if you get in here and you sit here for 20 minutes and you just start sweating at minute 20, even staying in here 5 minutes with all that sweat is a big benefit for sure. But I do want to mention too that sweating also involves mineral loss. So it pulls out the heavy metals, but it also the good minerals. So you have to replace them. You have to stay hydrated. So pretty much those are the only risks is lose mineral loss and dehydration. So I recommend if anybody does the sauna to have a cup of water before and after, and to put some mineral drops like the concentrate drops we have here in the office, just to make sure you're not depleting your minerals too.
Yeah, so for the patients who do come and use the sauna here, we do give them water that has a product called Concentrace, which you can get locally, you can get it online, but wonderful source of trace minerals, really important if you're sweating it out to make sure that you're putting the good stuff back in addition to getting the bad stuff out.
Oh, so, chronic pain is another one. I don't think I mentioned that too. Sorry. Yeah, so
lots of good reasons to detoxify, right? And for different purposes that we would use a sauna. So just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the different colors, because we get asked by patients, well, doc, what color should we use when we come in? And so, we highlighted in the background green, which is helpful for people who are dealing with infections. So if you're dealing with a bacterial infection or a viral infection like a cold, the green wavelengths can help to push that infection out faster. Red is really important for circulation. So if people are dealing with circulatory challenges, then red can also be of benefit to them. And then yellow is a color that can help both with skin conditions as well as that internal stress. So if people are dealing with stress and anxiety, yellow seems to be much more helpful. So it's full spectrum. We have obviously more colors than those three. We just wanted to highlight a few of them. But what we normally do is when a patient comes in and is going to use the sauna, we'll go into the room, the waiting area with them, kind of review what the colors are, what they can potentially do. And we really let the patient self-select for what they want for the duration that they're in here. And again, just a great, great way to detoxify. Just want to remind you other ways that we can detoxify. So as Jessica mentioned, sweating is the best way we detoxify. So sweating through exercise or using a steam bath or steam shower can also be of benefit, and clearly the infrared sauna. Eating cruciferous vegetables, right? So when mom and dad told you to eat broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts as an example, when we consume those vegetables, they bind toxins and they help us pee and poop them out. Speaking of which, peeing and pooping, really important for detoxification.
Our favorite topic.
And so, right. So when we tell patients it's critically important to have a bowel movement every day, it's because if you are detoxifying and you're getting those toxins to get into the intestine and is now going to be eliminated through your stool, if it's sitting in there for 2 or 3 days, if you don't go every 3, 4, 5 days to the bathroom, well, then those toxins have a chance to get reabsorbed. So it becomes this vicious cycle of getting into the stool, then getting reabsorbed into the bloodstream. So really important to have a good daily bowel movement. Drinking good, clean, filtered water. We're 70% water. We need to replace, and drinking that water will also help us to detoxify. And then Epsom salt baths. Great, great way to detoxify, another good way to relax, but really important that you as the individual patient are thinking about how are you going to detoxify on a daily basis.
Don't forget your lymph squeeze. That you
right,
have
of course.
Video.
So there's a video of me doing my lymph squeeze on our Facebook page. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, because I think I did that video shoot in December before we were even open. So doing this gentle squeezing technique from the furthest point of your body closer to going toward your heart, we're squeezing our lymph nodes. And remember, the lymph system does not have a pump associated with it. So when we exercise, we're moving our muscles, we're squeezing our lymph, and that's why exercise can be so important for detoxification and yoga. But you can also do this lymph squeeze, and I do it every day in the shower. It takes 2 minutes. I start at the top, work my way down, and make sure that I'm getting everything to drain toward the heart. So great ways that we can detoxify. It's just really important that we're mindful of that, reducing inflammation, replacing deficiencies in vitamins, minerals, and that will get us on this path to feeling at our highest quality of life. So I realize that we're up against it. It's been 15 minutes. We really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video in the infrared sauna. Again, if you guys have any questions, please message us on Facebook. If you have topics that you would like us to address.
Please send us some topics for next week too. And I just wanted to say one more thing about the sauna. So if you watch this video and you're hooked and you're like, okay, I'm going to go buy one, just a couple of things to look for, because not all saunas are created equal, for sure, as you'll see with the price. But you want to make sure it's a non-toxic wood, and you want to make sure they don't use toxic glue. And then also, even though we have Bluetooth and it does produce some EMFs, there's a lot of saunas that have way higher EMF frequency, output than this one does. So all those things together, you don't
Really
want
important.
to sweat in a room filled with toxins, right? So the non-toxic nature of the construction material is really important.
Great. So thank you again for watching and participating, and we really appreciate your feedback and topic suggestions. So please let us know if there's anything that we can do. Again, thank you so much from both of us at Inspire Wellness. Remember, it's your time to thrive. Let us inspire you. Until next week,
See you
have
later.
a good one.
Bye.